sure enough, we found a storefront space in Silver Lake on Mitchell Torina, 2 doors up from Sunset Boulevard, that we thought would just be our office. We didn't even think of it being a store. We thought this could be our office space. And then we were like, wait a minute, this has a storefront. Why don't we sell your jewelry and bags and my bags at 1/3 of the space? We'll split it up so that 1/3 of the front of the store will be our Vivier and Bentley is what we called it. And the 2/3 will be our offices.
Hi, and welcome to Handbag Designer 101, the podcast with your host, Emily Blumenthal, handbag industry expert and the handbag fairy godmother. Each week, we uncover the stories behind the handbags we love, from the iconic brands and top designers to the creativity, craftsmanship, and culture that define the handbag world. Whether you're a designer, collector, or simply passionate about handbags, this is your front row seat to it all. Welcome, Claire Vivier, Claire V, the Claire of all Claires, handbag royalty. Thank you so much for joining us on Handbag Designer 101, the podcast. I think I'm more excited than you.
Thank you, Emily. I'm very excited to be here.
Really? For sure. Actually.
Yeah. And this is my industry. There's a podcast about handbags. Yes, I want to be included. Thank you.
Okay. Well, good. That's us. That's me. That's all. And FYI, for anybody who's watching this on YouTube, I apologize. My ring light just died. So what are you going to do? Technology for the win. So I was fortunate enough to have you as a guest in my entrepreneurship class at FIT. And I did know your story, but hearing it from you was even more exciting. So I have some inkling as to, the journey that took you to the Claire V world. But I just want to, because obviously my listeners, most of them weren't in my class. And if so, good to have them back. Just to go back, you are LA based, you are California. That's who you are. That is part of your origin story, isn't it?
It definitely is. I'm based in Los Angeles, east side of Los Angeles. Started the business out of my home in Echo Park many years ago. It's hard for me to say. I say that the brand started in 2008, but really, as you know, these dreams start before we say that they actually start, because when you're starting your business on your own, completely self-funded, and it's just this dream that you have and desire and passion, you don't really know if it's going to turn into something. So I had the dream, and I started sewing bags and making things before my son was born. My son was born in 2003. So, that's a good 5 years before I say I started. But yeah, I'm based in Los Angeles. I'm married to a French guy, and that's why you see a lot of Frenchy phrases and things. And we have a lot of fun.
You're lucky, because it definitely gave your brand some zhuzh, right?
Yeah, it's like a writer, write what you know. I feel like I'm a designer and I design what I know. Like there's a lot of California in my designs, and I feel like there's a lot of French as well.
Well, he got lucky with you, that's for sure.
I'll tell him.
Yeah, listen, if there's anyone who wants internal PR, I'm your girl, because I'm like super fan XX. I still can't get over that this has finally happened. You said that you were sewing long before your son was born. What was that like, growing up? Were you a sewer as a child? Were you the person who made their own clothes, or was that just a hobby? Because obviously, most of us who started our handbag brands were doing something else. And then this was something that percolated. And most of the designers with whom I've worked kind of start their brand with blinders. It's like something yearning inside them to say, okay, I have to do this. I need to do this. I don't know how to do this. I'm going to push forward, and I'm going to make every mistake in the book because I just don't care, because this is what I need to do. So yeah. I believe something like that was your story-ish.
Yeah, I learned how to sew in grade school. And I think my sister had a sewing machine then later at home, so I would sew at home. And I would sew very easy things, like drawstring skirts and things like that. I never learned how to make patterns and things for clothing. I would make t-shirt dresses and stuff. But when I started to make bags, I must have had a really cheap sewing machine. And I just started making pockets for my computer, for my laptop, because I was working with my husband at the time in French television, in production for French television. And when I started to make these pockets for my laptop, I started to really feel like, oh, I'm really excited about this. Like, this is something I really love. And I could see that other people wanted them as well. Like, I was started to make them for my friends. There weren't a lot of cute laptop bags at the time. So this was the first time that I felt like, oh, this is something I really love. And it was like, I would stay up all night sewing, and I didn't feel tired. You know, that first feeling of like excitement and figuring out patterns and figuring out how to sew things when you have to use your brain in that way when you're sewing, things in reverse and things that you're like, okay, what is the pattern for this? I mean, you definitely use your brain in a different way, and it was very exciting to me.
How did you come to pass, if you were working with your husband, that you obviously needed a bag to travel with that required putting your laptop in? Because if we go way back to 2003 or before that, like, laptops were heavy. So obviously the bag that you were thinking had to be super sturdy. So were you traveling a lot? And how did your friends see said bag that they were like, hey, I want that one too? Because obviously the best marketing is wearing your bag yourself.
Yeah, laptops were heavy. I had that Blueberry Apple, remember the Blueberry Macintosh, that one of those first laptops?
Yeah.
So I was making a case for that. I remember that one had its own little handle on it.
Because in Sex and the City, Aiden said, oh, look, it's like a purse. It's got a handle. So yeah.
I know. I saw that recently, and I was like, oh my God, I had that laptop. That's the one that it started with.
It's like a bowling ball.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had a laptop before that. I still have that. The first Apple laptop that was like a little brick.
Yeah.
I had that in the 90s because when I moved to Paris, I brought my laptop with me, and you couldn't get online with it. We didn't have online. It was just basically a typing machine, and it was what I was going to record my life on. I wrote, just what I was doing in France, and then I would have to find a printer to print things.
Oh my God. I know.
I know.
And you convinced him to come to LA with you throughout this whole process.
Oh, well, he was planning on coming to California anyway. He had gone to school in Berkeley, and so he had friends in Berkeley, and yeah, so we decided to come back to the Bay Area together.
Wow. And then here you are, you're working with him, which I'm sure is already colorful between the pair of you and both of you working. And then this idea sparks. And then on a whim, you decide to make this bag. How did other people see this bag to say, oh, I need to make more?
Well, I just started making them for my friends. So I think they saw them in person.
So you were making them and giving them away.
Yeah. Yeah, or maybe they bought them for, I don't know, not very much money, but, maybe cost of materials or something. I remember the thing that I would get really caught up in is, how was I going to turn this into a business? Because laptops are all different sizes.
Yep.
And that was the thing that really tripped me up. And this is kind of something that I see a lot of young entrepreneurs who are starting their fashion company or whatever company they're starting. They get really caught up on things that aren't necessarily a problem yet, but it seems like it's going to be a huge issue. And that my thing was laptops. Like, how on earth am I going to get all of the new sizes? Even if I want to stick just to Apple, even just Apple has all the different sizes. And I was like, maybe I can get advance notice when they're going to change sizes, just like, all these things that were not an issue yet, and the advice that I give people all the time is don't get caught up on things that aren't actually a problem yet.
Yep.
Just put one foot in front of the other, keep doing your thing, because you're going to sort things out as you go along. And the thing that I sorted out was that my laptop envelopes could very easily just be a clutch, and they could be a handbag. And the laptop envelopes needed a tote, and the tote didn't need to have sizes because all different, there's a tote for, all different things. So it very soon just became totes and clutches. And the laptop envelope, it became like an oversized clutch, basically. And you could put your laptop in it, and there was one size, and then, if it fit, didn't, this is the only size we have. But yeah, turned out to not be, it wasn't a laptop envelope business, it turned into a handbag business.
So I so appreciate you saying that, like, sometimes the best ideas end up coming from ways that people didn't even realize that how the product was even being used.
Yeah.
Like, oh, who knew? I guess this is what I'm doing. You were doing this by yourself, making the bags yourself, sewing them, putting them together. At what point, how far in did you say to your husband, okay, by the way, I think I need to do this more / full-time / was your son born at that time and you were there with the baby, or were you still just doing this on your own and like, okay, just kind of cobbling it together and like, oh, well, I guess I need some sales. What do I do now?
Yeah. Well, before my son was born, I had already gone through the process of figuring out that I needed to find production. I needed to find a factory that sewed bags, because this dream of mine to make totes and clutches, even just at the time, and I had a little crossbody bag called a mini sack. My dreams and my designs were definitely surpassing my ability as a maker. So I knew that I needed to find some kind of production in Los Angeles. And so I went on this search, having not worked in the fashion industry at all and having no experience with production or anything. I just went downtown to the fabric district, and I went into all the stores, and I asked them if they knew factories that worked on bags, and nobody really did. And I went to all the, it was really a door-to-door grassroots thing of like, where do I buy zippers? Where do I buy Z-rings? Where do I buy snap hooks? Where do I buy? And I just sorted all this out. And at some source along the way, I think it was a hardware supplier, they turned me on to my first factory in Los Angeles. And I met them before my son was born. It was I think I probably had my son met them right before I had my son. And this is just to tell you that all of this, it really wasn't a business yet. It was really just this dream of mine. And I was like, this is something I would love to do. I don't know if it's ever going to work out, but I love it and I believe in it. I even believed in it back in the day, but I just didn't know how to make it work. And then I had my son. And then I was a little just kind of overwhelmed, I think is just the word, of becoming a mom and never having thought of the magnitude of that. I think a lot of people, when they have
of how high maintenance they are when they fall out,
and the magnitude of like caring for another being, and like, and this is going to be my life for the next, this is my life now. So I think I just was kind of like whiplash and didn't really know how I would work on a bag business dream of mine with a young infant. And I knew that even when I was going to have to start thinking about going back to work, this dream of mine wasn't paying me anything. So there was no way that I could pay for a babysitter, and have my husband work for, pay for everything. And my money would just go to pay for a babysitter so I could work on it. So it did not add up. Like, just math did not work. So I kind of put the whole dream on hold. I just kind of was like, okay, well, I guess that's just it. I guess I won't do that. And I remember driving past that factory one day and really like tears coming to my eyes, because I was thinking like that was really something I believed in, and that was really like I just let that go, and I kind of was feeling bad for myself and bad for moms who let their dreams die when they become a mom. And like I think I realized that because I had that very emotional response to it, like it might have been a calling, like it might have been something that I should return to. And when Oscar was able to go to preschool, when he was 3, half-day preschool, I decided to go back to that factory when he was 3 and go back to them and say, hey, it's me. Can we pick this up again? Can I make a few bags? And I started up again and started a website and found a friend of a friend who designed websites and started selling bags on my website. And really just started with clutches and kind of like a pared down version of that envelope, that laptop envelope. So anyway, that's how I started. I'm not sure. I kind of got off track from your question. But
That's okay. No, I mean, look, people don't seem to realize how productive a mom can be given a short window with a sleeping child.
that is so true. I got so much done between the hours of 9 and 12. You can't even imagine. And then I also had the benefit of a neighbor who had 2 kids of her own. And I would I would pick up my son from preschool and drop him off at her house. So another way of getting free childcare. And she was such a lovely friend and was happy to have Oscar at her house. So.
Oh my God. Yeah, it definitely does take a village. I so get that. So it's amazing because after going through that visceral reaction of realizing like, oh my God, this is what I'm meant to do. And then you have these like existential thoughts like, okay, if I'm only leading and living one life, I can't not do this. I need to do this. So it's kind of like what you were doing before wasn't so much of a hobby as like trying to figure it out. And then the clarity and the path just presents itself like, okay, he's gone. I'm gone. Like the first day you drop him off, you're like, I'm back to the factory. Hey guys, let's do this. The end.
Yeah. Yes. It's really how it happened. Yeah.
It's crazy. How were you able to decide, showing back up at this factory, like, okay, did the math for you? Were you like, okay, I need to sell this for X amount of price? Or did you kind of just throw it together and hope for the best?
If you ever wanted to start a handbag line and didn't know where to start, this is for you.
Living proof that independent designers can make it big.
Absolutely. Blumenthal is one prime example.
If you had dreams of becoming a handbag designer and didn't know where to start, this is for you. If you have a handbag brand and are in need of strategy and direction, this is for you. I'm Emily Blumenthal, handbag fairy godmother and handbag designer expert, and this is Handbag Designer 101, the masterclass. Over the next 10 classes, I will break down everything you need to know how to make, market, and manufacture a handbag. Broken down for you that you'll not only skip steps in that handbag building process, but also save money in that learning curve. For the past 20 years, I've been teaching at the top fashion universities in New York City, created the Handbag Awards, and also the Handbag Designer 101 podcast. I'm going to show you like I have countless brands from sketch to sample to shelf, whether you're just starting out and don't know where to begin, or even if you have a handbag line and just need some strategic direction, the Handbag Designer 101 Masterclass is just for you. So let's get started and you will be the creator of the next it bag. Join me, Emily Blumenthal, with the Handbag Designer 101 Masterclass.
Because there's this
It
weird
was a learning process. It was a real learning process. The thing that this factory, I always credit them as being so helpful to me at the beginning and really imperative for me as a starting my business, which was that they didn't hold me to giant minimums. I didn't know anything about minimums. I learned very quickly, like, what's going on here? I would have to produce how many? No, I can't do that. Like, I can't pay for that many. But I would go in and I would tell them my designs. I think they really liked me because I knew how to sew and I knew how to put things together. And so it didn't feel to her, the factory owner, it didn't feel like I was just some rich kid with a dream. A lot of people want to start fashion companies when they're just nothing against them. Sometimes they become very successful. But I think she just appreciated that I knew how to sew and then I knew a lot about the way things are put together. And I was really passionate about it. And I would go downtown, buy leather, buy materials, and oftentimes it would be kind of remnants of things. So I'd only have to buy a small bundle of leather or whatever I was bringing in. And she would let me, I don't even know if she had any minimums. I want to say like 10 maybe, So I didn't have to invest in inventory too much. It all seemed very manageable for, the small amount of money that I would have to put out, I would sell, I would put back into it, buy more materials. It just became this very self-sustaining this is.
That's pretty early adopterish of you to rely so heavily on D2C. And,
Very much so, yeah.
it's the interesting thing, I used to do partnerships with big brands. Now they're called collaborations. You were selling to customers. That was B2C. Now it's called D2C. So, the evolution of what we were doing, who knew that that's what people should be doing? I think that's where the market was going. How did you deal with, okay, I need to also have this sold in other stores? Because I know when I was selling my bags a billion years ago, the stores were very specific. Do not put your website on the hang tags because they thought it might compete. They had very strict rules to make sure that you would not conflict with their potential business for them to be generous enough to carry your product.
Huh. Yeah, I don't remember them telling me that. I don't know if my website was on my tag, but I know it was on an early version of my tags. But I started off selling, I walked down the street to Mohawk General Store, it's still around. It's still in Silver Lake. But at the time, it was in Echo Park, really right down the street from my house. And I remember walking by when they were opening the store, working on it. And I looked in there and I was like, what is this? Because Echo Park at the time didn't have the best stores. It didn't have a lot of interesting shopping. So I could tell by their decor that this was going to be something interesting. And I was like, oh, this is good. So as soon as they opened, I went down and talked to the owners, Kevin and Bo. And I said, I have these clutches, laptop clutches, and, these few bags. Would you be interested in carrying them? And they said, sure. Yeah, bring them in. And then they were my first store. And that was a great store because it was a cool store. So a lot of people from different areas and different buyers from other shops would go in there. So the bags got great attention. And then Stephen Allen in New York was my first store in New York. And
he was him and 𝐕𝐺. Those two stores in New York were the ones that were back in the day, the ones that dictated your success. If those two stores carried you, that was it. You were in.
Yeah. Yeah. Because buyers from all over the world go into those stores. And so that's how you develop your wholesale business.
It's interesting because in the realm of D2C, so many brands tend to forget, newer brands tend to forget the importance of boutique business. And that boutique business is your marketing, your paid marketing, because although you're not making the same markup of selling it directly to the customer, they're the ones who will do your PR, do your marketing, will pay you up front, will tell you the customer didn't like this one didn't work, swap it out, do you want to do something with us? So, building those relationships, you don't realize how valuable they were to you until you're able to reflect and say, oh my God, I wouldn't have been able to build this without that first store.
Yes, exactly. And I've run into different fashion companies who some are only direct to consumer and some are only wholesale. And I think, why would you ever do either one of those? We need all of it. We need, and I'm so glad that my brand started organically like that because it was so synergistic and it really, really was helpful in how the brand grew and just became what we are today.
So this is so exciting. This is like a one-on-one class on how to start a handbag brand the right way. How far in of you doing this did you realize okay, this is my job, this is my business, I've made it, I'm a brand? Because for most people, it's either getting office space or it's hiring your second employee, not your first.
Yeah, that's funny. I think those things were definitely important. My first employee was pretty important, though. My first employee was a woman named Jocelyn Mason, and she was the friend of a friend. And it was a time when I kind of had stopped working the other jobs that I worked because I needed to do other things to pay everything. So I was always prop styling or being an assistant on sets, or I was working in production and as a coordinator. I hated that job so much. I was working, or with my husband working in French television, just always taking these jobs that would take a week or two. And every time I would do that, I would feel fuck, this just set me back from my dream of you take one step forward and two steps back because you stop working for 2 or 3 weeks. And then you're okay, where was I again? Reach out to those editors, reach out to this, So it got to this point where I was kind of turning down those other jobs, and I just needed help. I needed help shipping. I needed to be two people. I needed to be two places at once, because I was running back and forth to the factory, running downtown to get more materials. Needed to be shipping. I needed to be doing outreach. I needed to be customer service. So a friend of a friend said my friend Jocelyn could do part-time. So Jocelyn came in to work part-time. This was when I was working on my house, and it turned out that Jocelyn very, very quickly became full-time. And we were just a team of two, and we became like exponentially more productive. It was amazing what that did. So that's another thing that I always encourage young entrepreneurs is when they're starting something. I was like, as soon as you can, get some help, and pay the person. Make sure you're paying them and see what you can get some help because you need it. I don't know, at some point, a friend of ours asked if their friend's daughter from Belgium could come in and be our intern. And I was like, intern? Why do I need an intern? I barely have a business. Why would I ever need an intern? And what am I going to do with her? She came in, so she was technically the second employee. And she, again, same thing happened. Like then the three of us are running this business, and we were three, like getting so much stuff done. And it was just like moving and shaking. And that's when it felt like, okay, this could be something. This is really, turning. But, I was still working on my house, and I still felt like, one day at a time. But yeah, that was a great time. So much fun. And I had the gift of two really great employees. The other thing I had was, even at that time, I very quickly employed or contracted a bookkeeper. And that's the other thing I really advise young business people is to get paid and to pay your bills. Because that is something, especially as a creative, you might not be the best at. And it's hard to ask people for money, especially your wholesale accounts, because they have more experience and they seem intimidating. And they, you're even just so grateful to be in their stores, but sometimes they're not paying you. And so you have to go after them. And it really sucks. And I didn't want to be the person that did that. So my bookkeeper would reach out and get, do accounts receivable and make sure that we paid all my factory at the right time and my supplier. So that was also extremely important. And the lesson that I learned from that is just to really know what you're good at and what you're comfortable with and know what you're not good at. And I just knew that kind of stuff gave me that was the thing that I didn't like to do. And so I'm happy a woman named Elena was my bookkeeper, and that was very, very helpful. So it was like me, Jocelyn, Mathilde, and Elena. And that was the first team of Claire V, which at the time was Claire Vivier.
Vivier.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. And how soon after did you realize okay, I think I need to open up a freestanding store?
That was in 2012. Well, no, it was 2011. That was a fun part of the story is that I had a neighbor named Catherine Bentley, a great jewelry designer, very talented Los Angeles designer. She lived across the street. That's the thing about living in these great creative areas is that we had this street with a lot of creative, cool people on it. And she lived across the street. We chatted in the street one day talking about our businesses, saying we needed to get them out of our house. They're kind of taking over our house. So we said, well, if we find an office space that we could share, maybe we'll look into that. Sure enough, we found this storefront space in Silver Lake on Mitchell-Torena, 2 doors up from Sunset Boulevard, that we thought would just be our office. We didn't even think of it being a store. We thought this could be our office space. And then we were like, wait a minute, this has a storefront. Why don't we sell your jewelry and bags and my bags at 1/3 of the space? We'll split it up so that 1/3 of the front of the store will be our Vivier and Bentley is what we called it. And the 2/3 will be our offices. And as soon as we did that, it was extremely successful. Again, I think this was a really fun time in Silver Lake, Echo Park area of Los Angeles because there wasn't a lot of shopping, but there were so many people that lived there that were creative and had a lot of disposable income, I suppose. It's working people basically that wanted to shop in their neighborhood. So we did really well that first year, and it became very evident that I needed to move out of that space as soon as possible because we were kind of taking over the back. With bags are a lot bigger, take up more space than jewelry does. So the space at the corner became available. And again, we're so naive, I was thinking, well, okay, I'm just going to take over that corner space as my office. I'll keep this store with you, Vivian. And really, that's what I thought I was going to do. And it's so dim-witted. I mean, it's like, it's a corner space on corner of Sunset Boulevard in Mitchell to Arena. And it has, full windows on both sides. So I had to cover up the windows because, with just white paper because I was using it as an office. Very quickly, I was like, hold up. This needs to be my own store. It's a beautiful store space. I need to find another space for my office and make this the first Claire Vivier store. So
oh my God, that's amazing. Is that wild? Like, who knew?
Yeah.
Who knew? Was it weird? Was it weird to break up with Catherine?
No. We're still friends. I mean, it was very natural. Yeah.
It was like, okay, my bags are bigger. I think I need a bigger.
Yeah, and she was happy. She created her own store there for a while called Dream Collective, which was a fun adventure for her as well.
Oh my God. So now you have a store. You have like a 5-year-old child. This is it. You're doing this. How are you able to?
Well, this is 12. How old would he have been?
Like 7? Something like that.
Yeah.
So how are you able to determine the trajectory from there? I mean, I've spoken to a lot of designers who were really hot that time because that was truly, I mean, people say it, but I know it. I was there. I lived it. But that was as far as I'm concerned, the first real historical rise of the independent designer. Like that time, a lot of brands came up. Prior to that, it was really just big brands. And then this time, everybody was kind of, a lot of women were starting these very DNA-specific brands. So people had money, people were shopping, Bendel's was open, Barney's was still open. There were a lot of these stores that were buying product like this. And then the market, because our job as business owners, designers, and so forth, you have to roll with the punches. You have to see where the market's going. You have to see how people are shopping differently. How are you able to navigate what's next? Because, if you're to go from there all the way to the pandemic, I'm sure the business went really high, then it went down, then it went high, and then the pandemic hit. And then, it's like pivot. You got to be light on your feet, especially when you're making a product that it's limited with how many one customer can specifically buy.
Yeah. So I think that there's a lot of elements, a lot of ingredients that go into a successful business or, a business that you can keep going. And I think it's a lot of tenacity. It's good design. It's, some smart marketing. There is a certain amount of luck that happens. So if you will call
right
it
place, right time.
Kind of right place, right time, kind of magic. I do think that being in my neighborhood and having that corner of Sunset and Mitchell to Arena was pretty fortunate because it's Los Angeles. New York and Los Angeles are, our two big cosmopolitan cities that we have in this country, of course, along with others, but, two of the main ones. And I think I was just extremely fortunate to get that space because it did really well. It became very apparent that I could open a store in New York very quickly, soon thereafter, because I knew where my web sales were coming from. And my web sales, it was doing really well at Stephen Allen and probably some other stores in New York at the time. So 1 year later, opened up my second store in New York, in Nolita on Elizabeth Street. So 2012, I opened Silver Lakes. 2013, opened Nolita. And
it's so ballsy.
Yeah. And then we just kind of opened up a store a year for, 14 years. So now we have 14 stores. But I mean, I've been doing it longer than 14 years. But really, that's how it was for the first, it sounds crazy, 13 years or so. And then the last year, 2024 and 2025, we did not open new stores. 2026, we have 2 planned. In any case, I think what I wanted to say is, there are all these ingredients to go into making a brand, but I think you just have to notice what is successful. And what I noticed what was successful is the stores. So the stores were working for me and what products were working. And yeah, I also think that, I mean, we can get into this later, but I think another element that was extremely helpful to me is partners. I took on some business partners along the way, and that was extremely helpful.
Oh my God. Claire, I mean, this is insane. I feel like we need to do a part 1 and part 2. I think if you're up for that, because there's so much, that, and I don't want to hold you captive because this is it's just so exciting to hear because you are still here. Your stores are still here. Your product is very much still here. You've weathered so much, even a brand rename, which most people can't get away with, to go from Claire Vivier, which is who you are, and then have Roger Vivier come after you and then say you can't use your own name. And then you say, screw it. I'm not going to deal with any of this legal stuff because the legal costs and ramifications will supersede me fighting for my name. So screw it. I'll just change it to Claire V. And other people will still find you. Yeah. And, like that in itself is like, that's risk. Maybe it's because you're from California that it doesn't seem like anything rattles you because you are a very chill person, I must say.
I think California suits me, but I do credit the chillness to be from my family. I think my dad was extremely chill. And I don't know. I think it's part of my Mexican heritage or something. I don't know. I attribute it to my father's side of the family. It has been a real boon, a real asset to be calm, to have a calm-ish demeanor throughout all of this, because I think it, I don't know, makes for a nice workplace. I think it makes for, there's no screaming or yelling at my workplace, and I always kind of keep thinking things in perspective. We're very fortunate to be working in fashion. What we do is the only thing we're doing is trying to bring joy to people and trying to bring things that allow people to express themselves and feel good about what they're wearing. That is important work, but it's not curing cancer, and it's not, keeping people out of jail, and it's not all of the very, educating people, all the things that I find to be very tough and noble professions. I feel like, we're fortunate to be in this business, so let's keep things in perspective and keep it light and keep treating people well.
Oh my God. Claire, I'm going to hold you to it now that I've made this mutual decision that we're going to have a part 2.
I would be so happy to. Emily, are you kidding me? Again, I'm very honored that you want to talk to me. This is our business. I'm so just, I don't know, just touched that the business resonates with you and that you want me to be on your show.
Oh my God. Well, while people hear this part 1, how can people find you, follow you? Because we're obviously going to have more to come, because I obviously can't hold you captive for the 2 hours I need to hear the life that's Claire V.
I know. We should do another hour. We will. We'll put it on the calendar very soon. Well, you can find me at clairev.com, and you can go to any one of our 14 stores. We have 4 in LA, Newport Beach, Montecito, 2 in San Francisco, Seattle, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and Georgetown, and Nolita, Brooklyn, and Amagansett.
Oh, well done for knowing all of them. Good for you. It's like trying to remember children's names. And
I often forget one. It's often Montecito that I forget. So I'm trying.
Ironically, still in California. And anybody who doesn't already know, God forbid, it's Claire without an I, CLARE with a giant V for Vivier. And FYI, you were always the first. You will always be the first to me. Claire, thank you so much for joining us. We will absolutely have you back.
Thank you, Emily.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate and review and follow us on every single platform at Handbag Designer. Thanks so much. See you next time.